Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of social sciences.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we've got some interesting YouTube videos and articles lined up that'll give us some different perspectives on this.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, we talk about science a lot, but
Right.
social sciences are kind of their own thing, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, we always talk about science as one big thing,
Right.
but social science, they bring in a whole other side to it, you know?
Totally. It's like we can understand the science behind how a virus spreads,
Mm-hmm.
but figuring out how people react to a pandemic,
Yeah.
that's where the social sciences come in.
Yeah, that's what we're going to untack today.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've got this video from Sumo,
Okay.
and it starts by, defining social sciences.
Okay.
But it's not just some boring definition.
Right.
It dives into how these different areas, all these different disciplines try to tackle those big questions. Like,
Yeah.
what makes a person who they are, or how does society actually change?
Mhm. Like, what defines a person?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge question.
Yeah, and it's cool how they kind of break it down into these different viewpoints.
Right.
Like, how does history shape us? How does where we live affect how we talk to each other?
Oh, yeah.
What about the impact of, political systems, or even just being in a group? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally.
It's psychology.
I think that's what makes social sciences so interesting. It's not just one perspective, right?
Right.
It's like all these different lenses coming together.
Exactly. It's a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
And it all comes together to help us understand why we act the way we do,
Mm-hmm.
both on our own and as a whole society.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get the different perspectives, but why should we care? Right?
Yeah.
How does this play out in the real world?
Yeah. Good point.
I think Professor Carey Cooper in this one video,
Oh, yeah.
the CF Social Science video, he really nails it.
He's great.
Yeah, he's like, just knowing the facts isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know how to actually use that knowledge
Right.
to change behavior.
Especially for things like public health.
Oh, for sure. Or climate change.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge issues.
Yeah. And what really struck me about what he was saying was just how urgent it is.
Right.
He's not just saying oh, this would be nice to know.
Yeah.
He's like, we need this to survive.
Right.
To make a better future.
Yeah.
And he gives some real examples, like those prostate cancer awareness campaigns.
Ah, right.
They use social sciences
Yeah.
to get past that stigma around men's health.
Totally. And all those sustainability initiatives that he mentioned,
Right.
they're not just about telling people to recycle.
Wow.
It's about understanding what makes people want to be more eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm. The psychology behind our choices.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just what individuals do, too.
Right.
Cooper talks about how we can use these same ideas
Yeah.
to encourage businesses to be sustainable,
Mhm.
or even get governments to make better public health policies.
It shows that social sciences aren't just some abstract thing. It's stuff we can actually use to make the world better.
Absolutely. And that's something the Academy of Social Sciences article really hits on, too.
Oh, okay.
They talk about this thing called the what works approach.
Oh, okay.
It's basically social scientists working with the people making policies
Right.
to design policies that actually work.
So you've got the data about what's happening. Maybe
Yeah.
it's like rising obesity rates or more crime or the impact of climate change.
Right.
But then you need the social science experts to figure out how to actually use that data
Exactly.
to make policies that can actually change things.
And they give some cool examples of this in action.
Okay.
Like, social scientists helped the government figure out how to design tax programs that were more effective
Oh, wow.
because they understood how people think about paying taxes.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right.
It's not just about saying pay your taxes or you'll get in trouble.
Right.
It's about understanding what makes people decide to pay or not.
Right.
Mm.
And then designing policies that take that into account.
Exactly. It's about going beyond just gut feelings.
Right.
And using actual evidence from social science to make policies that have a better chance of working.
Okay, so we've talked about how social sciences have a real impact.
Yeah.
Now let's dig a little deeper.
Okay.
What are the main areas within social sciences?
Okay.
And what makes each one unique?
So the Academy of Social Sciences article does a nice job of laying out some of the big ones.
Okay.
You've got economics, which looks at how wealth is created and spread around.
Okay.
Basically, it's like looking at the financial heartbeat of societies.
Interesting.
Then you've got political science, which gets into those big ideas of power and justice and how those ideas turn into the policies that rule us.
Makes sense.
They also talk about law,
Good.
which analyzes all those rules that protect our rights
Right.
and govern individuals and organizations.
Yes, it's like the framework for how we interact.
I thought their description of organizational psychology was really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about how individual and group behavior affect things like productivity and well-being.
Right. And that ties back into those bigger questions we were talking about.
Right, like what motivates us.
Yeah. How do we work within groups?
Exactly.
And then we can't forget about sociology and social anthropology,
Oh, yeah.
which take an even wider view
Right.
to look at how groups, communities, and cultures work.
And then there's geography.
Oh,
I feel like that one sometimes gets overlooked.
Right.
But understanding how people interact with their environment,
Yeah.
how different places affect culture and behavior.
It's all crucial.
Yeah, it's all part of the puzzle.
It is. It's about understanding those relationships between people, places, and the environment, and how those relationships really impact our lives.
Okay, so we've got this amazing mix of different areas, each with its own focus,
Right.
but they all help us understand human behavior and society.
Right.
And there's this point in the Academy of Social Sciences article that really highlights how important this is.
Okay.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
They talk about how crucial social sciences are for tackling those big global challenges,
Right.
like the COVID-19 pandemic and the climate crisis.
It's interesting because they're not just saying that social sciences can help us find solutions.
Yeah.
They're saying they help us understand what these challenges actually are in the first place.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like with COVID-19, we needed epidemiologists to understand the virus itself.
Right.
But we needed social scientists to understand how misinformation spreads,
Oh, yeah.
or how different cultures react to lockdown,
Totally.
or the effects the pandemic had on the economy and society.
Those are huge factors.
Right. Social sciences helped us understand things like globalization, risk management, how governments responded,
Right.
the different vulnerabilities of different
All
groups.
these interconnected things.
Exactly. All those things that shaped how the pandemic played out.
And with the climate crisis,
Yeah.
social sciences can help us understand things like consumer psychology,
Oh, for sure.
what drives businesses to make the decisions they do, how policies can actually encourage people to act sustainably,
Totally.
and even how education can change people's attitudes towards climate change.
It's not just about the science of climate change itself.
Right.
It's about understanding the human side of it,
Yeah,
the things that contribute to the problem.
right.
And that will determine whether any solutions we come up with actually work.
It's like you could have the most amazing technology to fight climate change,
Exactly.
but if you don't get how people will react to it,
yeah,
it won't have much of an impact.
exactly.
And speaking of impact, there's another key point the Academy of Social Sciences makes.
Okay.
They talk about the importance of evidence-based policy.
What they're emphasizing is that even when we have these breakthroughs in other areas of science, like medicine or climate science, it's social science research that helps turn those breakthroughs into policies that really help people.
Like, imagine you found a cure for some deadly disease.
Right.
That's incredible, but how do you actually get that cure to the people who need it?
Yeah.
How do you make sure everyone has access to it?
Yeah.
How do you deal with any social or cultural barriers?
It's where social sciences come in.
Right. It's about bridging the gap between the discovery and actually making a difference.
Exactly.
And that's where the expertise of social scientists is so important.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the different areas within social sciences, their real-world applications, and how they help shape policies based on evidence.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting is how this whole field is always evolving.
Oh, yeah.
It's expanding to include new areas of study and new perspectives.
The articles, Social Science Courses in a Liberal Arts College Curriculum, and What is Social Science? Overview and Subjects.
Yeah.
They really show this. They talk about the huge range of disciplines that are now considered part of social sciences.
It's everything from those ethnographic studies where researchers immerse themselves in different cultures to the complexities of politics and governance,
Right.
to how sociology and geography are changing to deal with new challenges.
One thing that really stood out to me is how science and technology are becoming more important in social and behavioral studies.
Oh, interesting.
Like the article mentions how the Irish potato famine,
Oh, yeah.
which we usually think about from a social perspective,
Right.
can now be studied through nutrition and crop science, too.
It's like we're always finding new ways to combine different fields of knowledge to understand the world better.
And this combining is leading to some really interesting insights.
Yeah.
It's blurring the lines between those traditional areas of study and creating new ways to explore things.
It's almost like social sciences are becoming this big melting pot of knowledge, always changing to keep up with how complex our world is.
Yeah. And speaking of a global perspective, there's something else I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
From those videos, what is social science? Overview in subjects.
Yeah.
And what is social science? An animated overview, #social science.
Right.
They talk about how important the UK is in social science research.
Yeah, the UK has definitely made a big impact in this area.
Yeah, they have a lot of published research, top quality publications.
And their universities are consistently ranked among the best in the world for social science programs.
It's interesting to think about the history, too.
Yeah.
European countries have been a big part of how social sciences have developed.
Right.
Like, Germany had a huge influence on experimental psychology.
Yeah.
And Switzerland played a big role in structural linguistics.
It's this rich history of ideas from all over Europe that really shows how collaborative and interdisciplinary this field is.
Okay, so we've talked about the different disciplines, the global context.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to think about the value and responsibility of social sciences. Definitely.
The Elephant in the Lab interview with Professor Arthur Lupia has some great thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he talks about how social sciences actually make our lives better.
Right. It's not just about learning for the sake of learning.
Yeah.
It's about giving us the power to understand how the world works.
Right.
To see what might happen because of the choices we make.
Yeah.
To see things from other people's points of view.
And ultimately to make better decisions.
Exactly.
And that idea of making informed decisions, it goes hand in hand with trusting scientists.
Right.
Lupia talks about how scientific methods are really rigorous and reliable.
Yeah.
So they're a more trustworthy source of information than other sources that aren't as carefully checked.
Definitely.
But he also admits that it can be hard to get people to see the value of social sciences.
Oh, yeah. Especially in a world where there's so much information out there.
Right.
And where people are often skeptical.
Yeah, he suggests that scientists need to be better at telling stories.
Well, that's interesting.
Connecting their findings to real-world examples that people can relate to.
It's about showing, not just telling, how science has actually improved people's lives.
Yeah.
It's about making that connection between research and what people experience every day.
Because in the end, the whole point of social sciences is to understand ourselves and our world better.
Yeah.
So that we can make a better future for everyone.
Absolutely.
And that's a story worth telling.
It is.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the responsibility of scientists.
Okay.
Lupia talks about how it's super important for researchers to think about any potential downsides that might come from their findings.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like we're so focused on the good that could come from a scientific discovery that we sometimes forget about the possible bad stuff.
And Lupia really argues that scientists, especially those funded by the public, they have a duty to be transparent.
Right.
To make their research accessible and to communicate their findings in a responsible way.
It makes you think about that balance between wanting to learn new things and what could happen because of that knowledge.
Yeah, like how do we make sure that social science research is used for good?
Right.
How do we stop it from being misused or misinterpreted in a way that could hurt people?
That's a tough question.
It is a complex issue.
Yeah.
And there are no easy answers.
Right.
But I think Lupia's point is that we need to be talking about this. We need to be thinking critically about the ethics of social science research.
Right.
And finding ways to make sure it's done and used in a way that benefits humanity.
That makes me think about another thing Lupia brings up.
Okay.
The whole debate about private versus public funding of science.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like there's this tension between wanting research to be open for everyone to see and the possibility of new discoveries that might come from private investment.
It's a tough balance, for sure.
Yeah.
On one hand, you want research to be free so everyone can benefit.
Right.
But on the other hand, private funding can sometimes lead to breakthroughs that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
It's almost like a philosophical question about knowledge and progress.
Yeah.
Who should own scientific discoveries? Who should benefit from them?
Right.
And how do we prevent the pursuit of knowledge from becoming all about money?
It's a debate that's probably going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
But I think it's good that we're having these discussions.
Yeah.
That we're grappling with these complicated issues.
Right.
Because ultimately the goal is to find ways to use the power of social sciences to create a world that's fairer, more equal, and more sustainable.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot here.
Yeah,
what social sciences are, why they're important, the different areas involved, how they're used in the real world, the ethical stuff, and even the philosophical questions about how research is funded.
I think it's become pretty clear that social sciences aren't just some abstract academic thing.
Yeah.
They're a part of our lives.
Right.
They're how we understand ourselves, our societies, and the challenges we face together.
And what I find really inspiring is that social sciences are always changing.
Yeah, they are.
Growing to include new areas of study and new ways of thinking.
It's like this ever-growing body of knowledge that's helping us make sense of a world that's getting more and more complex.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's really the amazing thing about social sciences.
Yeah.
They give us the tools to not only understand our world, but also to shape it.
To make a better future.
Exactly, for ourselves and for the generations that come after us.
I think that's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
Social sciences are about more than just watching. They're about empowerment. They empower us to ask tough questions.
Yeah.
To challenge what we think we know.
To find solutions to the big problems. And to build a world that reflects our values and what we want to achieve.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up.
Yeah, it is.
Social sciences are about more than just observation. They're about taking action.
Absolutely.
And it feels like we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah. Oh, totally. There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
More connections to make more layers to uncover.
It's like peeling back an onion.
Yeah.
Every layer you peel, there's another one underneath.
And another.
Exactly. And each layer gives you a deeper understanding of the whole thing.
And this deep dive has been great.
Yeah.
It's given us a taste of all the different flavors within social sciences.
We went from that big overview, what are social sciences, why do they matter, to exploring some of the key areas and what makes each one special. We
saw how these areas are used in the real world.
Right.
How they're helping us tackle those huge global challenges.
Yeah, like pandemics and climate change.
Exactly, and how they're shaping policies that are based on evidence.
Policies that affect our lives in so many ways.
And we even talked about some of the ethical stuff and the philosophical questions that come up when we think about the role of social sciences in society.
I think what's become clear is just how powerful and how much potential this field has.
It's not just about understanding the world as it is.
Yeah.
It's about imagining and creating the world as it could be.
And that's what I hope our listeners take away from this.
Yeah.
A sense of possibility.
Because when we understand the forces that shape our world,
we're better equipped to shape those forces ourselves.
We're not just passive observers.
Right.
We're active participants in this story of humanity.
And social sciences give us the tools to write our own chapters.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the big picture, the impact of social sciences on society, the global challenges,
the ethical considerations.
But I think it's important to remember that social sciences are ultimately about people.
They are.
They're about understanding what makes us tick.
What motivates us.
How we interact with each other and with the world around us.
The stories we tell ourselves. The beliefs we hold.
Right.
The values we cherish.
And those are the things that shape our lives.
Yeah.
Both individually and together as a society.
So as you keep exploring social sciences,
yeah,
remember that human element.
Because it's that human connection that makes this field so fascinating.
And so important.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
We hope it's made you curious.
And inspired you to keep learning.
Keep questioning.
And keep engaging with the world around you.